I'm going to show you how to make tortillas de verde. This is a popular Ecuadorian dish. We are going to stuff our tortillas de verde with white cheese. The things that you will need for this recipe are 3 green plantains, some butter, some queso blanco if you can find it in your local store. Or you can also use mozzarella cheese. You can either buy the bag of shredded mozzarella cheese, or you can even use cheese sticks and just cut them into small pieces. This will, with using the mozzarella cheese, will make your patties a lot cheesier. You'll see towards the end. For this recipe, we want to use plantains that are green, not ripe plantains, as plantains ripen, they turn into a sort of a yellowish. They have some spots that begin to turn dark brown, black. And as they ripen more and more, they begin to acquire a sweeter taste. For this recipe, we do not want sweet plantains. We want unripe green plantains. We want to peel the plantains, and because these plantains are so green, at times it can be a little bit difficult to get the outer layer off. What you can do is simply take the two ends off, make a slice going from top to bottom, or two slices going from top to bottom, just to kind of slice the outer layer. And you can run this under hot water for maybe a minute and a half or two, and that'll allow the skin to come right off very easily. And so we're going to peel all of our plantains. We're going to cut these each into maybe 1-inch pieces. Once we've done that with all of our plantains, we're going to put these into a pot of water. We're going to salt that water to taste, and we're going to let this boil. That should take about 15 minutes more or less. You can tell, if you wanted to check, you can tell when the plantains are ready to be taken out, when you can grab a knife and pierce one of the pieces of plantain. When you notice that the knife can go through one of the pieces with ease, as you can see here, you know that your plantains are ready. Next, we're going to drain those plantains, and we're going to mash them very well. We need to form a dough out of these plantains, and so we have to mash it very well. Once any large lumps are gone, we can add a tablespoon of butter. Now, some of you may already know this is how you would make a mango. You would just stop right here, fry your salami, fry your cheese, fry your egg. Delicious, right? Now, once you're done mashing, add 1/4 cup of very cold water. This is going to help to maintain that dough nice and soft. If you have a dough maker, that would have been an option that you could have used versus mashing by hand. You would have simply tossed in your plantains and your butter, and once it's nearly done, you would have tossed in your 1/4 cup of cold water. It would have been much quicker, easier, and your dough definitely would be a lot smoother. Now, once your plantain dough has cooled off a bit, you can grab approximately a handful of the dough, and you can begin to press it and turn it in order to form a rounded sort of a ball shape. Once you have that nice round shape, what you're going to do is just continue pressing. You want to make sure that it keeps its shape. But what you're going to do next is carefully begin to make a hole in the center of your ball. This little pocket is where your cheese will go. We want to make sure that it remains on the inside of the tortilla as best as we can. Now, once you have a good size of a pocket, you can fill it with your cheese as much as you're able to. And once all of your filling, oh, by the way, you can either do this with chicken, you can do this with any type of beef. You decide what you'd like to fill it. For this recipe, normally in Ecuador, we utilize cheese. Now, once your tortilla is stuffed, you're going to begin to carefully press inwards to close this opening of your patty. And once it's stuffed and it's sealed, you're going to just gently pat it on each side in order to flatten it out a little bit. This recipe, using the 3 plantains, made about 6 to 7 patties. Now, to cook them, you're going to add oil to the pan at low to medium heat, and you're going to cook them approximately 6 minutes on each side. This is going to create a nice crust on both sides of the tortilla. And in addition to that, it's going to melt the cheese inside or warm up whatever other stuffing you decided to put inside. Every single bite will have the soft, buttery plantain dough and lots of cheese inside. One of my favorite things about this dish is that my mom is from Ecuador. My dad is from Dominican Republic. As you saw that I mentioned earlier in the recipe, the beginnings of this recipe is pretty much making a mango. Out of that mango, you're kind of making these little balls and stuffing them with cheese. The funny thing that I find about this recipe is that as common as this dish is to Ecuadorians and as common as mango is to Dominicans, making the actual tortilla is something that is not common to Dominicans, and then eating the mango, which is the beginning part of the recipe, is not something that is very common to Ecuadorians. Well, at least living in Ecuador. So I think it's kind of a crashing of cultures, and I think it's pretty neat. So it's one of my favorite dishes for that reason as well. Just take a look at how much cheese comes out of these patties. And this is why you want to make sure that you don't have any cracks when you're forming the ball and when you're closing it. Once again, you want to make sure that you seal it really nicely so that when you're finally frying them to heat them up, the cheese stays inside and none of it seeps out. When I make the tortillas de verde, I usually make big batches of them, and I love having them in the fridge available for when company is coming over. They usually preserve really well in the fridge. I like to serve these because I find that they're very filling. They go great with a cup of coffee and they just taste really good. I've never gotten negative feedback from these. So hope you can try it and hope you enjoy it as much as we do.